But first, this eventually becomes a good news story about coronavirus. There's so much difficult news at the moment for us all to listen to, but this has got a happy ending. This is about 98-year-old Daphne Shah. Now, she was rushed to hospital with coronavirus last week. That's her son, Wesley, there with her. He obviously was fearing the worst. But after just 5 days, Daphne, 98-year-old Daphne, defied the odds and became one of the oldest patients to beat the virus and return home to her family.
And as she continues to rest up, we go now to her son, Wesley, who joins us. And Wesley, you must be a very happy man. Just great news about your mum.
Absolutely, absolutely, and thank you for bringing it to the show today. Yeah, I'm really relieved to have my mum back.
Now, would you say, I mean, what she's come through is extraordinary. Would you describe her as an extraordinary person?
Very much so. She's a very formidable lady. She's lived with me for nearly 20 years now, or for just over, in fact. And when she went in an NHS ambulance last week, I really never thought I'd see her again. So it's just fantastic to have her back, thanks to the NHS.
Well, that must have been such a difficult moment because you realised how unwell she was. You called the paramedics. Talk us through that moment when she had to go into the ambulance and you couldn't go with her. What were you feeling? What did you say to her?
Well, it's difficult to know what to say because you can't rehearse something like that. It happened all very, very quickly. She was rushed in at the weekend. Prior to that, we thought it was it was a bacterial infection, and we found it eventually that the antibiotics didn't kick in, which she was prescribed, and it turned out to be that she had a viral infection, and it still wasn't confirmed that she had corona, but the symptoms were there, and I generally thought when I put her in an ambulance that I'd never see her again. And never be able to see her even in the hospital, as well as to visit her, because visitors aren't allowed at the moment. And it was just fantastic that she came through it, and I'm really happy to have her back, as I said earlier.
What did you say to her as you were pushing her into that ambulance? Was she conscious? Was she aware you were there?
She was very aware of what was going on, and I just said to her, God be with you till we meet again. She has a very strong Christian faith, and that kicked in on this occasion. And I think it's very appropriate to mention that Christian faith, especially as we're approaching this Easter weekend. And I think it's a Christian faith that have to pull through, not just the NHS.
But Wes, when you said until we meet again, I mean, seriously, in your mind, were you saying until we meet again in the next world, in the afterlife?
Most definitely in the afterlife, because I never thought I'd have her back.
Yeah.
Never thought.
Well,
I thought I'd be with her in heaven, basically.
Yes, really. Yeah. So that gets us to the main point, right? The perceived wisdom on all of this is that the older you are, the less likely you are to survive this. Why do you think, how do you think, and people will be saying there are people who will be younger and fitter than your mum was. How and why do you think she survived?
I think that's what people perceive, and I think it's incredibly wrong. And let me just say this about the NHS. I think the NHS have a reputation that, currently or whatever, that if you're over 60 or 70 or 80, whatever the magical age is, that you'd never be cared for. That is a load of nonsense. I mean, the NHS couldn't be better. I mean, I had phone calls to me from my mum 4 times a day, giving me an update on how they were progressing with things in the NHS. And by gum, the NHS really helped my mum through this. And the NHS can do it for you. So please have your confidence, reinstate your confidence in the NHS. They're brilliant. And also, not forgetting what I said earlier, is my mum's strong Christian faith. She had stacks of people praying for her all over the country, which was brilliant. And to see that. And she's she's left her life in God's hands. And really, she's led a very surrendered Christian life, and her faith kicked in. She's a very strong lady with a very strong faith.
It's wonderful. Sorry, it's wonderful to hear you saying that you had those phone calls, because I know it must be very, very difficult for families when their loved one is in ICU or in hospital, and you can't visit, you can't talk to them, you can't phone. It's very heartening to hear that they called you not just once a day, but 3 or 4 times a day.
Absolutely.
And this was Ninewell Hospital in Dundee. What would you like to say to them?
Hospital in Dundee. And quite honestly, I felt my mother was the only patient there.
Well, that's brilliant. That's amazing.
A fantastic care that she had from that hospital. It's just out of this world. The NHS are brilliant. They deserve more than a clap on a Thursday.
Well, please, from us, will you wish her all the very, very best? And we would have had her as the star of the show today if she had been up to it. But we will make do, and we're very happy to have you, Wes, because you look a happy man.
Very much so. Very, very much so. And I'm sorry she can't be with me because she is resting and recouping very slowly because it has been quite an ordeal for an elderly lady.
Yeah, I know it's her 99th birthday in July, isn't it?
It is. It is.
So hopefully, we don't know how long this isolation and lockdown is going to go on, but hopefully you'll be able to celebrate with your family and friends, and wish her a very speedy recovery from us and a happy birthday for July as well.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you,
Thanks for your
Wes.
time. Thank you, Wes.